Did you know? Spyro the Dragon was created after Sony of America decided that they wanted more kid-friendly games for their system. The biggest PlayStation titles at the time were Metal Gear Solid, Tomb Raider, Resident Evil, and Final Fantasy, among others, and Sony felt that their library needed to appeal to a broader audience in order to compete with Nintendo. 3D platformers were very popular with children, so Universal Interactive Entertainment president Mark Cerny issued a challenge to the developers at Insomniac Games. He wanted them to create a full 3D platformer where the focus was interaction with the enemies. This is the reason the enemies in Spyro will directly target and taunt the player, as opposed to other 3D platformers at the time where the enemy AI would be static and programmed to perform a single function. While planning this new 3D platformer, Insomniac Games had trouble deciding who or what their protagonist would be. Art director Craig Stitt suggested making a game about dragons out of his love for the mythical creatures, and the other developers jumped on board. It's thought that the name Spyro comes from the Greek word of fire, pyro, possibly fused with the Latin spiro, meaning to breathe. During development, Mark Cerny told programmers at Insomniac that he thought it was possible to create a panoramic 3D environment that extended into the horizon, without using the common practice of fog effects to mask the unloaded portions of the map. Insomniac programmers achieved this by designing code that would load several different levels of detail at corresponding distances from the player. This means that objects far away from the player would have a smaller polygon count, but then become more detailed as the player moved closer towards them. The PlayStation could then render distant places, but in low detail as not to overload the console. Animated transitions such as the whirlwind lifts were designed to help give the system more time to load portions of larger levels. During the planning stages, Insomniac Games contacted the character designer from Crash Bandicoot, Charles Zembillas, to design their new protagonist. They wanted a character that was cute, but also mischievous, bratty, unpredictable, and something of an upstart. Originally, Spyro was going to be green, but the developers decided to change this color to purple in order to prevent his skin blending in with the grass. The music in Spyro the Dragon was composed and performed by Stuart Copeland, the former drummer of the rock band The Police. Copeland actually played through each and every level repeatedly to get a good feel for it before he made the music. Many pieces of music from the game have also made their way into other Copeland pieces, such as the music from Spyro's Wizard Peak level being used as the closing theme to Nickelodeon's The Amanda Show. The music for the level Jacques also appears on Copeland's compilation album The Stuart Copeland Anthology. Spyro was voiced by Carlos Alazraqui, the same actor that provided the voice for Crash Bandicoot. Alazraqui was also well known at the time for being the voice of the Taco Bell Chihuahua. Many of the other dragons in the first game were also voiced by Clancy Brown, who voices Mr. Krabs in SpongeBob SquarePants. Throughout the course of the rest of the series, many of the main characters would go through strange voice replacements. In the second game, Spyro was voiced by Tom Kenny, who is actually the voice of SpongeBob SquarePants himself. Later in the series, Spyro would be voiced by Jess Harnell and Elijah Wood. Sparks, Spyro's dragonfly companion, has been voiced by David Spade, Billy West, and Wayne Brady. Spyro was marketed in the West as a mischievous character with attitude. However, in what has been described as a reverse Kirby effect, Spyro was marketed as almost the opposite in Japan. He could be seen in artwork to don much happier and carefree expressions than his North American counterpart. In Japan, Spyro is voiced by a young woman and extra dialogue was added while Spyro was charging and gliding. Interestingly enough, the Japanese logo for Spyro appears to spell out Ripto in English. Insomniac Games thought this was a pretty cool name and so decided to use it for the antagonist in the game's sequel, Spyro 2: Ripto's Rage, also known as Gateway to Glimmer in the UK. Within the code of all three original Spyro installments, there is a strange poem hidden in data files that features lines from literary greats like Shakespeare and Charles Dickens. The last line of the poem reads, "And I always get the Shemp." It's not known what this means, but the word Shemp is used repeatedly in the Spyro series. Dr. Shemp is the name of a boss in Spyro 1, as well as the name of a trick in the Spyro 3 skateboarding minigame. It's thought that the word comes from the term fake Shemp, which refers to an actor that has his or her back turned to the camera. While you fight Dr. Shemp in Spyro 1, the player must attack his exposed back to defeat him. Spyro is also featured as a cameo appearance in the Crash Bandicoot game Crash Twinsanity. He can be seen in the game defending his gems from 3 of the game's enemies. The game Ratchet & Clank, which was also developed by Insomniac Games, has potential ties to the Spyro series. In the level Gear Grinders, a large orange enemy holding a wrench can be seen accompanied by a small robot. These grunt enemies have seemed to serve as a basis for the development of the Ratchet & Clank characters. Spyro 3: Year of the Dragon contains a plethora of anti-piracy booby-trap codes designed to make the work of software pirates more difficult. This code was especially harsh because anti-piracy measures programmed in Spyro 2 were circumvented in a little over a week. Once the trap is triggered, a series of weird and game-ruining events would occur. For example, some of the game's collectible eggs and gems are removed to make them unwinnable. The Save Game Fairy will also inform Spyro that he appears to be playing a hacked version of the game. Not to mention, the game will randomly crash in odd and confusing ways. And in the European version, the language will change randomly. It's not known if this was effective in helping sales of the game, but it took pirates much longer to crack Spyro 3, in which time it's estimated that 50% of the total sales of the game were made. That's all for today, but don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Make sure you also check out DidYouKnowGaming.com, where we post gaming trivia every single day. If you like this video and want to listen to more soothing anecdotes by myself, you can have a look at my top 20 PS1 games countdown. Because, yeah, you should do it. I don't know. I've got nothing.